Candidates, a show that brings you face-to-face with candidates running for federal, state, and local offices. Our Constitution empowers we the people to protect our country's future through the ballot box, a privilege and responsibility that many countries don't have. This sacred privilege gives you, the voter, the power to hire good leaders, while at the same time to fire bad leaders. We have the privilege of living in the greatest country in the world, but it'll only stay that way if we empower good leaders to lead. So this journey, if you'll go with me, will enable us to find out more about each candidate. Where do they stand on things like immigration, domestic as well as international policy? These are some of the questions that we're going to explore on Meet the Candidates. So stay tuned, let's go, get your notepads out, and let's find out who we need to vote for, who is going to protect us and sacrifice for us with the passion that they must have in order to keep America great. I'm Billy Graff, your host. Welcome to Meet the Candidates. Today's special guest is Martin Etwop. Martin, so glad you're joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, tell us a little bit about who is Martin Etwop?
That's a good question. Where do you want to end?
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Uganda.
Okay.
I came to the United States 15 years ago.
All right.
As a missionary.
Really?
Yeah, and I was doing missions work in Uganda, and I get this email and phone call from a church in Victorville, California, saying,
well,
hey, we need a church plant pastor. We are getting into the trenches, so we need someone to come work with us.
Okay, so are you a pastor?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been in the pastoral business for about 6-7 years, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I came to the United States then and worked in Hollywood as a missionary and in Victorville, then moved to the Bay Area, then found myself in the best state in the world.
Oh, you finally got to Texas.
Yes.
All right, all right. So what brought you to Texas?
Texas, when we lived in California, everything was changing. Like, I moved there when it was already changing.
Gotcha.
So I had stories about when our great President Reagan was governor there, when he was president. I'm like, why do I have to come when all the great things are gone?
Yeah.
And so lived there, got married, have 3 children now, but had 2 children before we moved.
Okay.
And what brought me to Texas, I realized my life and what California was offering didn't fit anymore.
All right.
My kids, I don't want them to be taught that, hey, you can grow up to had 2 girls then, you can grow up to marry another girl. And Texas was telling me, hey, we are the freest place. Your kid can grow and be who God has chosen them to be.
Okay.
And so I kept trying to figure out how to move out of Texas because I was working at Tesla then, and I was going to law school. Of course, you can't just up and go.
Up and go. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when did you come down to Texas?
Over a year ago.
All right. So.
Yeah.
And you live where?
I live in Conroe.
In Conroe.
Yeah. Right behind the hospital, 242 and 45.
Okay. Well, excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, it took you a while to get here, and you traveled a long way to get here.
Yeah.
But we're glad you're here.
Over 10,000 miles.
Oh, good deal.
Yeah.
So you have 3 children.
Yes.
You're married.
Yes.
What do you guys do for fun?
That's a good question. In my office, I have a drum set. And because I used to play drums at church when I was in California.
Yes, sir.
Then I moved, when I went to law school, then we moved from one church to the other church. The other church was like, hey, here we don't play drums.
Oh, goodness.
I'm like, okay. So one of my professors was like, to keep up with law school, you need to do what you always did. Like, okay, Amazon, here I come. So I wanted a drum set, and me and my kids work that thing like crazy. We love to do worship.
Well, good.
So
is pastoring your full-time job right now? Obviously, going to law school is hard
going to law
and
school
work.
is-
So,
yeah, going to law school right now, and finishing law school. I'm in my final year, and just spending time with my kids is my full time job right now.
okay.
Because when I was working at Tesla and I was going to law school, I worked 60 hours a week,
Oh, my goodness.
and I went to law school, and I had no time with my kids. No time. My now 6-year-old had no chance. Who had no idea who I was,
Okay.
because I was at work at 4:45 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
I get home at 4 o'clock, be in class at 6:30, drive in the traffic in San Francisco, and so one day I woke up and said, "Hey, we're done with Tesla and we're done with San Francisco."
Okay.
So because I need to know my daughter.
Right.
So
Right.
and yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you consider to be probably your most important accomplishment in the areas of public service?
I think the most important thing, I don't know if that's bragging. I hope it's not, is when I donated a kidney to someone who became a dear friend of mine.
Wow.
I saw a post from a lady, mother of 3, saying her husband was dying. He'd like had total kidney failure. He had 3 kids. They were like 4, 6, and 8, around about there then.
Okay.
And they couldn't see their dad, and she was doing it all by herself. And she was
goodness.
working in the Silicon Valley.
Oh, wow.
And so I saw the post and read all about it. I'm like, and this is the thing. So they're Vietnamese.
Okay.
So I was telling people, hey, now I have a Vietnamese brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I offered to get tested, and I did, and I was a match. And
Oh, my goodness.
14 years later, he's doing great. His kids are graduating college.
Wow.
2 of them are ready to go to medical school. The third one, who was 4 then, now is a high school wrestling champion.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
I would say I'm proud to see that he got to watch his kids
Yeah.
do.
Family's
they are
everything,
now.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Family's everything.
So I was honored to do that.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
me, that was my greatest accomplishment.
Sure.
Not that it was my accomplishment, but it was something that I'm proud to have done.
Right. Busy guy. Kids, family, wife.
Life is good.
Just life is
God
busy.
is
So,
good.
what has caused you to want to run for Congress? Because it is that too. Just running for Congress is a very busy schedule. So, why you want to run for Congress?
Bill, when I moved to the United States 15 years ago, I was so excited to come to this great nation. And coming from Uganda, the United States was like everybody's dream. Why? Because you grow up watching like people being beat up to go vote, or people you're being forced with this Marxist and socialist ideology, and you want something different. And I came to the United States. I was so glad to be escaping the Russian and Chinese influence in Uganda. And I come here, and I'm seeing America is going to where Uganda was. And I hate the fact that I'm watching it happen, and I've lived that life. And so I want to be able to tell people, hey, guess what? You who's advocating for this, you have no idea. And that's why.
That's it?
Because I don't want to see my kids, my 8-year-old,
Right.
my 6-year-old, and my 8-week-old. I don't want to see them grow up how I grew up.
Right.
It's a sad situation, but I see that's where America is going.
Gotcha.
And I love this country, man. I do. and I wouldn't want
We
America to be
definitely
that.
live in the greatest country in the world.
Yes,
There's
we do.
absolutely no doubt. Well, you have a lot of life experience. How has those life experiences prepared you to serve as a congressman if you should win?
I think being a missionary, being a pastor, talking to people, hearing their stories, working in in Tesla with all the crazy work hours, so you get to understand people for who they are, and working at a school. I worked at a school, at a Christian school,
Okay.
learning from all the different parents, and I mean, I've learned to empathize with people, feel what they feel,
Right.
and listen to them. We are past time where our leaders tell us what we need to do.
Okay.
I know that we need to listen from the people to know what they want. Sometimes as a leader, I need to direct the people where we need to go. But my job is to give guidance, not to impose.
Okay.
Because we the people, put you there as their representative, not their boss, not their king, not their president, not the guy who goes and makes the big money and comes back home feeling good about it. And I think my experience doing all that put together gives me a good package to understand and be who America, who District 8 is looking for right now.
Great. Okay. Let's say you wake up in the morning and you're elected.
Yes.
What would be your number one priority when you got to Congress?
My number one priority is to remind the Republicans that it's past time for us to be scared of someone telling us who we are. We are the people's representatives. But for way too long now, our Republicans are too afraid for someone to say they're racist, to say they're intolerant, to say they're bigots. And you know why? The Democrats are so smart. They know, hey, if I just keep saying, you try to say something that racist, you try to say something smarter like intolerant. And the moment they say that, Republicans are like, ooh, what are they going to say now? I can't have that tag on me. My first thing I'm going to do is stand up and work with my fellow Republicans and say, enough is enough. Time to take back America. Time to shut those voices down. And how do you do that? Number one, by ignoring those comments. Because you know what a bully does? They have no strength, but they make a lot of noise and see what you're going to do. And when they do that, they make noise behind you and you run like the Republicans are doing. They've won. Then they take your lunch money.
All right.
But if you send up the bully and say, hey, guess what, dude? This is it. They're like, oh, he actually knows who he is, knows his identity.
Right.
And that's what we Republicans have lost right now, our identity.
Gotcha.
And we need to get that back.
All right. Well, thank you. All right, folks, that ends our first segment. We're so grateful that you're watching. Don't leave. In just a minute, we're going to go into our Liberty section. Our Liberty section is that special section. It's the fun section where we talk about policy. We dig deep and kind of go a little bit deeper into some areas of policy because we want you, the voter, to better understand what these candidates want to talk to you about. So hold on. We'll be right back to the Liberty segment. To the Liberty section. This is the section where we are going to investigate the very policy and beliefs that the candidate has. So here we go. This administration is spending trillions of dollars it doesn't have, creating debt that will be the responsibility of generations to come. My children, your children, our grandchildren. The simple question is what? Would you vote on any bill that would add debt to the people?
No, actually, I put that on my website, and I'm saying, I don't want my 6-week-old kid, 8 weeks now, today to pay for our stupidity. The spending that's going on right now, it is stupidity.
Right.
People just want to feel good about themselves and buy what you don't have with the money you don't have.
Okay.
Buy what you don't need with the money you don't have to please the people that don't even like you. That's what Congress is doing. That's what the Democrats are doing right now. And my answer would be no to that.
All right. The 2020 election brought to light many ways that elections can be tampered with. The Democrats call any effort to protect. Let me start that one over. I got tongue-tied for a minute. The 2020 election brought to light many ways elections can be tampered with. The Democrats call any effort to protect the sanctity of the ballot box voter suppression. Is voter integrity important, Martin?
Most certainly. It is very important.
Okay.
Because what is the point of an election if you can't protect the one person, one man, one woman, one vote?
So how would you suggest we deal with voter integrity?
The first thing would be we need to go back to finding out why what happened in 2020. Okay. Like we need to dig in. We need to stop having Facebook and Microsoft and Apple control the information narrative. And we need to stop giving these big tech companies control over the machines that operate our elections. Because guess what? All this big tech are the Democratic. Right now, when you look at them, they act, talk, and behave like Democrats, and so that we need to take that away. And two, we need to be able to say every time you vote, you should be able to have a paper ballot, and you should be able to type in the system 2 days later to see that this is who I voted for, and this is how I can verify it. And if I want to print a receipt again later, I should be able to do that. And actually, we should have a system where they say those pieces of paper have to be kept. You keep a copy, and the government keeps a copy for a while. So when issues come up, they're like, hey, this group of people voted and we're having issues. Do you guys mind turning in your papers so we verify that what is being tabulated here is the same way you voted? Because we don't want to have someone change your vote. We want to make sure it is what it is, and then count them all to see that the final tally comes to what it ought to be.
Okay. Well, let's jump on a real hot topic that's going on in our country right now, and that's the border.
Yes.
And the immigration issues. Do you support the current approach to immigration that Washington, D.C. is putting out as policy?
No. I came to the United States as an immigrant 15 years ago. I had to go to the embassy. They had to ask me all these questions. And they're like, why are you going to the U.S.? And one of the questions the guy asked me, he had never dealt with a religious visa before. He's like, what is that? I'm like, hey, you're the embassy guy. So he had to call D.C. to find out what to do.
I'll be.
And I was the first guy in 15 years that they had offered a religious visa to. But they asked me all this, why do you need to go to the United States? And who are you going to be working with? And getting all this background information. Right. Because the way our system was built is in such a way that we don't want people to come and be donated to stuff, charity. And we don't want people to come in that we can't account for them. And so if we're leaving our borders and letting anybody come in, like they're like, okay, today we're going to let in 3,000 people. Tomorrow, 4,000. We have no idea who they are, where they're coming from. When I lived in San Francisco, there was this illegal immigrant who came in and he shot a tourist. in the city of San Francisco. And ICE had asked for this guy. He had been arrested before. He had been deported before, and he came back in. Then he had been arrested before, and then he was under the holding of San Francisco. And ICE said, hey, could you give us this guy?
Mm-hmm.
We need to send him back. And the city of San Francisco had said no. And then this is the guy who killed an American tourist.
Wow.
To someone who had gone to see one of the most beautiful buildings.
Sure.
And it pains me that there are people who do everything right. Then there are people who do everything wrong, but they're glorified for doing wrong.
Mm.
That's what the immigration issue today is about: glorifying wrong and castigating people who's doing right.
Okay.
That is not acceptable.
The federal government is responsible for maintaining our borders and protecting us and taking care of policy in relationship to immigration. Should the President of the United States of America follow the laws that the Congress has laid down in relationship to immigration, or should he just have the authority and the freedom to do anything he wants?
No one has the authority and the freedom to do whatever they want. We don't have a king. We do not have an emperor in this country. We have we have laws that have been set up. We have representatives who go and make those laws based on what the people want. Mm-hmm. And so one individual should not be able to just decide what they want.
Okay.
And I don't like the fact that policing immigration is left in the hands of the Attorney General, so they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. When the President and the Attorney General decide, this is now the new, they send a memo. I mean, a memo after Congress has put down all this 100-page rules and regulations. I'm doing immigration law right now. The INA book is this big.
Oh, wow.
And there's all the codes written down. And then one guy writes a memo with 3 paragraphs, and that's what runs America, and we forget about that big. It's not acceptable. So no, the president should not be doing that. The Attorney General shouldn't be doing that.
Okay. In the event that the federal government does not do what they're called to do constitutionally, what rights and what authority do you believe that the states have to protect themselves?
This is the really annoying part when the Supreme Court says that the immigration issues is a federal issue. The immigrants don't go to an area called federal land. They come through Texas. So the federal government, they should listen to what the people want. So if the people of Texas, who then become the part of the federal system, if the people say, you can't be having an open door through Texas, then Texas should be in position to say, yes, you need to come the right way. You can't just come to Texas, or you can't come and use our highways to go to maybe to Florida, because there's that 100-mile thing. So where it says that if someone has been caught within the 100 miles, you can send them back right away, of course, which doesn't happen. So what does someone do? They go past the 100 miles. Then they can stay for as long as they want because they went past 100 miles from the border. That shouldn't be.
Okay.
Like Abbott was saying, we the Texans should be able to say, we are part of the United States, but we are the Republic of Texas. We should enforce, if the federal government doesn't enforce those laws, we should be allowed to enforce our Texas laws that might be the same as the federal law, but it's Texas law. We should be able to do that.
So you would support the leadership in Texas in their effort to protect the citizens of Texas.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Next question. Too often, once elected, our representatives lose their way in D.C. and they begin to focus on becoming reelected versus fighting for policies that protect the liberty and the life of their constituents. What is your position on term limits?
I think congressperson should go for 3 terms, 6 years.
Okay.
And that's what I'm looking at. If I win, when I win, I want to stay for at most 6 terms, because I also want to practice law and challenge all these bad policies that are coming up today.
Right.
I want to be able to go write law and say, I wrote that law. I know what that law is because I was involved in that. And this is now, this is how it needs to work. So I say that term limits should be enforced in Congress, and a representative should stay for 6 years. There's 3 terms.
Okay.
Then maybe a senator, they can stay for 12 years, 2 terms, because they don't need to be more than 12 years.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to another subject. Education in America, I believe, is one of the most important tools that we have to prepare the next generation of leaders in this country. And so what role do you feel like the federal government should have in the role of education from kindergarten to 12th grade in this country?
Education is a fundamental right. So being a fundamental right, the federal government should be a little involved. But in the grand scheme of things, education should be left between the states, and not even the states should be like having another little piece of the pie. It should be the parents.
Okay.
So, yeah, the state should provide the facilities and the resources and all that. But the parents should be able to choose what school they want to send their kids to. The parents need to be able to decide what things to teach their kids. Because I homeschool my kids. My wife does.
Oh, you do?
Why? Because we don't like indoctrinating our kids. I don't want someone telling my kid how to think. You know, my kid comes and asks me a question. I'm like, what do you think about that? They're like, I don't know. Okay, so I kind of help guide them into so they think themselves. But I don't want the federal government to tell me, oh, we have to have common core. I don't want the state to come and tell me, oh, you need to teach this. I need them to like kind of give a guideline, but not make like, this is what you need to teach.
Okay.
And if you don't teach that, then we're going to take your kids to CPS. That's a lot of chicken poop, actually.
Well, let me ask you this then. We're going to bounce to another subject real quick. Could you just give us a brief idea or description of your position in the area of abortion?
The unborn, the baby, when we heard that we're having a baby, first we thought we'd miscarried. My wife has miscarried like 3 or 4 times. And we thought we'd miscarried because she did actually. Turns out she was carrying 2 babies. I don't know. Then one, we lost the one. But then the one survived. But when we heard that we were having a baby, I mean, it was even we already had 2 kids. But it was like the most beautiful news that you could hear. So the moment you go on and watch the screen and you say, boom, 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 boom. Then they give you a picture. There's a picture on my refrigerator. My wife sent me a picture. She's like, oh, this is the baby. I'm like, it looks like Ginger. Because I couldn't even read. She sent me a picture of the sonogram. I'm like, so what am I trying to say? Life begins at conception.
Okay.
And nobody should be able to decide who lives and who doesn't. You know, if someone kills a pregnant woman, they charge for murdering two people.
Mm-hmm.
So then, if someone else is doing this is a baby, but then on the other hand, so when you're saying it's a baby and it's not a baby, how is that possible? How can you have something and not have it at the same time?
Okay.
So I would say right now, Biden and Pelosi and the Dems, they're trying to get back to funding abortion with our money. I would say, no, we need to stop that. We need to stop them. I would say we need to go back to the Mexico City policy. We need to stop funding people in Uganda to kill their babies over there. We need to, when Planned Parenthood, the people who started, the person who said Planned Parenthood was a member of the Eugenics Society. They wanted to kill our African American babies. So, but today it's like, oh yeah, we're protected. We're what? A woman's right. So I agree. Everybody has a right. But if your right is to take another life. So what about that life's right?
Right. Okay. Thank you. Next question. Tax reform. What position do you take in reference to tax reform?
Tax reform. A few years ago, when now he's gone. What's his name? He was the former CEO of the pizza company.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he proposed the 10-10-10, right?
Yes.
And just have like all your taxes in like this piece of paper, like so small, where it's easily understood. I was like, that is a brilliant idea. We need to change the way, like, when I've been doing my taxes myself for like the past so long, but every year it's getting more complicated. When you add stock, it gets different. When you add housing, it gets even worse. So then when you add a business, and it's getting, we need to do something about our taxes.
So do you have an idea on, just real quickly, we're going to run out of time. Do you have a specific thought or direction you think reform should go?
I'm still processing that.
Okay.
Coming up with a good packaging it, and I'll give it back to you soon.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, thank you. All right, folks, we have gone through the tough ones. We're going to be right back here in a second. We're going to go to our hope section. Our hope segment is, for me, the most important segment of the day, because in the hope segment, we give the opportunity for every candidate to tell us, the voters, what's important to them, what they're passionate about, and how they can bring hope by being elected. So we'll be right back. To the hope segment. This is the segment that we allow the candidates to just inspire us and encourage us as voters. So here's where I want to go with this one, Martin. If you're elected, how do you think your being elected can bring hope and encourage the people that you're supporting and you're representing, and how are we going to bring them hope again?
Thank you, Bill, for that. Before I answer that name I was trying to remember earlier, Herman Cain.
Herman Cain, yeah, that's him. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he was a great guy. So back to your question. America is a great nation. We're resilient people. 9/11 is coming up in 2 days. And since 9/11, 20 years ago, you remember when Americans all came together?
I do.
And we've been having a lot of 9/11s going on since then, with all our different policies, with all the gang violence, with all the Antifa activity on the streets in everywhere. Portland is like a mess. But 9/11 showed us how Americans can be Americans again. And I'm hopeful. And the other thing is, Americans are people of faith. They believe and love God. And we have our hope in God. And if we have hope in our God, that He's seen us through all that we've gone through, He can give us one more chance, 2 more chances, 10 more chances. But while that's happening, what do we do? How about, as your congressman, I come back and start listening to you as Bill, not as someone who votes, but as who actually is Bill? How is your life? What's going on? I mean, today it's all about me, vote for me, do this for me, give me. And nobody, especially our leaders, we don't go back to the people and say, I appreciate you voting for me. And, but it's not about me.
Okay.
It is about you. And so, excuse me, I propose, or I would say that, we haven't lost our humanity. People are trying to define what being human is today. They're trying to say a boy is a girl and a girl is a boy, but we still haven't lost our humanity.
Right.
So if we look deep into each other, we'll realize that we are more the same than we are different. Okay. I look at me and I think I look like you. I mean, my skin color might be different. My accent is like the best in the world.
Oh, I love your accent.
But, you and I are sitting here talking.
Yes.
And even after here, we could meet outside and talk more. And that's what America needs. That's the hope we have as America. Just going back to that, go barbecue together, sit down and go worship God together and just go watch the ball game together. Hey, that's the beauty of America, the greatest nation in the world.
Great. So, if you're elected, what are your top 3 priorities that you would like to work on in your first term?
I'd like to work on ending our out-of-control spending.
Okay.
We need to go back to responsible fiscal spending, like I said earlier. Sorry. And secondly, I like to defend our freedoms, religious freedom, Second Amendment freedom, and I like to get rid of Section 230 that gives Facebook, Google, Amazon the power to control, watch, or monitor what I do or say.
Okay.
And number 3, I want to be able to protect life.
Okay.
Like I said about my 8-week-old.
Yes, sir.
There are so many more of my 8-week-olds out there that need to be protected.
Okay.
And
well, let's move on. Let's thank you for that. What we like to do now is give you an opportunity, Martin, to just spend a couple of minutes to tell the people that are going to vote in a few months why you are the best candidate to take them to the next future in America. So I'd like for you to just look in the camera and tell the people why they should vote for you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. And this is why I want you to vote for me. Why I believe I'm the best candidate. America has always been the greatest nation in the world. and it's been falling. It's been going out of whack. But I believe that having grown up in seeing where America is going now, from my experience growing up in Uganda, I believe that I understand more and I will agitate more, I will fight more, because I know where I do not want to go back to. And, forget about AOC and the gang who are trying to determine where America goes. AOC and the gang have not lived the kind of life that I've lived, the kind of life they're trying to take us to. Democrats haven't done that. I have lived that. And so I'm going to fight as hard as I possibly can, because you and my son and my 2 daughters, they need a better America. They need to go back to our foundation, our hopeful America, where we live, we dream together, we know what we hope for, and we shoot for that, where we work hard. We don't take resources from one person and give it to the other person and think that the person who's been having it taken away from them will keep working. I want to say everybody needs to go back to work. Everybody needs to, yes, there are people who will need help. We are a compassionate nation. But we are not going to be just living or giving that kind of charity thing all the time when people can actually do what they need to do. So vote for me when the time comes, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, Martin, it's been a great interview. I have really enjoyed hearing your story, and I look forward to see what happens next. Thank you for being in the studio with us. Thank you for just taking some time.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and ownership of MCPLive.tv.